Oh, yeah. So I hope you got my message, which I said that I'd uploaded, was it 3 or 4 more teaching videos on the Bhagavad Gita. So at least we've got 16, 17, 18, up to 19, I think 19 or 20, 19, I think.
Up to 20.
Up to 20
Up
I've
to
done.
20.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Very good. Um, so today we'll be looking at 216 and maybe on to 217. So I've got somebody in the house who's going to shut the door. So Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 16. Which I shall read out and then call up on the shared screen. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sattah, ubhayorapi drishtontastvanayostatvadarshibhi. I'll just share screen and call it up. Okay, so do we have, is the screen correctly shared? Okay, thanks. Yeah. So, na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sattah, ubhayorapi drishtontastvanayostatvadarshibhi. So this vidyate, it's from our root vid.
Sorry, could you possibly enlarge the text size?
Yes, of course, here we go. Is that okay now, Chris?
That's great, thank you.
Okay, right. So vidyate, it's from our root vid, meaning to know. It's the one that in ancient times the meaning was it was both to know and to see. It's the same vid, of course, that we have in Latin videre and video and vision, visible. It's the same root, as we know, that comes into English as wit and wisdom. We do something unwittingly, unknowingly. So you can see through the Indo-European languages that it has retained both those meanings, but they've become specialized in different branches. So via Latin, it came to have the meaning of seeing, with the specialized meaning of seeing, and in the Germanic line, it came to have the meaning of knowing. Already in Vedic times, I think I'm right in saying that it had more the meaning of knowing. In fact, the Vedas is literally the knowledges. This is the passive form of the verb, regularly formed root vid plus ya vidyate, literally, it is known. Literally. And it is known then comes to have the meaning of a general statement of whether something exists or not. So vidyate, and na vidyate, it's like an indefinite statement of existence, like in French, il n'y en a pas, vidyate, na vidyate. In Spanish, hay and no hay, meaning just a statement as to whether something exists or not. So it can also literally mean it is not known, na vidyate, but when you see vidyate and na vidyate, most commonly it means it either something exists or doesn't exist. So bhavo, existence, na vidyate asato. That's na asato vidyate would mean is asato bhavo na vidyate. There is no existence. There is no such thing as existence. Or there is no being for that which is not. Paula, could you mute, please, because we're getting quite a background noise from your. Thank you, Paula. So this asataha at the end of the line. Sorry, I'll go through it in a different way. Nasato vidyate bhavo, and then the second pada, the second half of that line, says the same thing but the other way round. Na abhavo vidyate satah. So na vidyate, and look at the second pada now. There does not na vidyate. There does not exist non-being for that which is. This is the genitive here. Na abhava vidyate satah. What he's saying here is that which truly is cannot not exist. And by contrast, that which is not cannot have an existence. This asata and sata, it's the genitive of the masculine and neuter present participle. Let me just explain that. So we have the, oops. Oh, my head normally starts playing up an hour into this. That's started already. That's better. So the root as meaning to be. Incidentally, caution, it's not the same as the root as meaning to throw, and certainly not the same as with the long root as meaning to sit. It's the same word, the as one, from where we get the asanas of yoga, literally the sittings, which we call them in English, the postures are the asanas. Just remember that us and as coincidentally the same. But as meaning to be, it's a class 2 verb, which means that the verb endings are joined directly to the root without any thematic vowel in the meaning in the middle. So for example, you do not. If it were a class 1 verb, you'd get asami and asati, but it's not. It's you join the endings directly. So asmi, I am, and asti, it is. Normally in these class 2 verbs, all verbs generally, the second person singular and the present ends with a C. So you would expect to find for thou art, you are, you would expect to find a C, but in fact it's not. One of the S's drops out, so irregularly it becomes a C, as in the well-known Vedic phrase, tat twamasi, that thou art, tat twam asi, asi with a single S.
Sorry, James, what does tatwamasi mean?
Tatwamasi, that thou art. It's I'll just write it here. I forget which scripture it comes from. Chris, are you able to help us? Is it from one of the Upanishads? And it's a very well-known phrase, of course, among the in Vedanta.
Memory doesn't serve, James, but you're quite right. It is from one of the Upanishads. I can't remember which.
Okay. So it is, in fact, it's this is part of the instruction, which would be broadly the same, doesn't look the same in what one might call the elementary levels, the entry levels of Buddhism, but broadly the same with the among Hindus and Buddhists, that you are looking for truth, looking for yourself, and constantly looking outwards, looking outwards. But when you turn the gaze inwards, and it's talking about the Atman, the and then the Paramatman, the divine being. And this Tatwamasi means the enlightened person then realizes that there is no difference between him and the divine. They are the same. That is the meaning of Tat Tuam Asi, that thou art. So the divine that you've been looking for is none other than your own true self. So Tat means that, Tuam, you, but singular, thou, Asi, that art, that thou art. This verb behaves in a slightly peculiar way, because in the third person, don't bother with the we and the you plural, just the third person plural, you would have expected, sorry, getting my pen playing up again. You would have expected to see as plus anti. You would have expected to see asanti for the plural, but in fact, what happens, the a drops off. So all you get is santi. Those of you who speak Italian and French and who know Latin will recognize exactly the same phenomenon in your own languages, because this root as becomes esse in Latin, esse, to be. It's a kind of rare infinitive in Latin. It's one of the very few infinitives that doesn't have an re at the end. But both the Italians and the French have added one. The essere, not esse, but essere in modern Italian. I wait for correction from Marco if I get anything wrong, Marco. Thank you. And in Old French, estre, so E-S-T-R-E, but then the S dropped out, which you write the circumflex instead. So modern French becomes être. Now, if you look at what happens in French, in Latin, you get est, which is in French written exactly the same, but just pronounced e, and in Italian written as e. But you can both see how they directly derive from the Latin. Now look at the plural form in Latin. They are, you drop off the initial vowel. So in Latin you get sunt. Exactly the same phenomenon happens in Sanskrit. So in Latin, they don't say essunt, they just say sunt. The first vowel drops off. Just a strange quirk of historical linguistics. We get exactly that same phenomenon in Sanskrit and Latin. And what happens in French? In the plural, ils sont. And exactly the same in Italian, loro sono. So we see that same entertaining phenomenon. So we see modern French and modern Italian, the mysterious dropping off of the initial vowel, and that's exactly what we're seeing in Sanskrit. Same in Pali as well, Santi. Now, the present participle, easiest way to know how to make the present participle is you just look for the third person plural of the indicative. So here we've got Santi. And the stem form is Sant. From which we get nominative, masculine nominative sun, accusative santam. For the remaining cases of the singular, the N drops out. That is why we have not Santa, Santaha, but Sataha. And the same throughout the rest of the declension. The neuter form is Sat. So present participle being that which is nominative masculine sun, neuter Sat. The form santam is for the masculine only. Of course, the accusative of the neuter is always the same, and then for the rest of the cases, it's the same as the masculine. So tat is therefore means being as the present participle, and it has the meaning of that which is. And it is that same word from which we get the derivative noun satya, meaning a truth. It's from that sat, meaning being. When in English, via the Romance languages and ultimately from Latin, we talk about the essence of something, l'essentiel, the essence, the essence. It's from the Latin esse, to be, the reality of something, the essence, what it really is. And in Sanskrit, what something really is just sat, or as a derivative noun, satya, the truth. By the way, it's that same satya, which by regular phonetic mutation, oh, sorry, my pen is playing up again. By regular phonetic mutation becomes satya with a double ch in Pali. It's a neuter noun, so it makes it plural satyani, and in Pali, satyani, truths. Now,
James, sorry, one of my pals in the gym, the local gym, is an 80-year-old Indian gentleman with the name of Satya.
Right, okay.
I think he did tell me it meant truth.
If he said that, he indeed satyam avadat. He spoke the truth. Satyam avadat. Yes. And it's as you've just mentioned, Chris. It's used as a personal name. It's also used as a compound name. For example, Satyajit. For example, is another Satyajit, meaning he who conquers by the truth. Now here we've got. Oops, where am I? Here we are. So the satta means of that which is, or that which is real, the real, that which is. So na abhava, so na vidyate there is not, there does not exist, the abhava, the non-being, satah, of that which is, of that which really is.
Sorry, James, can I just clarify the sat as in being, the root is as still, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
And you would expect to find, if this were a regular verb, you would expect, therefore, to find that the third plural would be asenti, and therefore the participle would be asant, asat, and so on. But because the vowel drops off in the third person plural, which becomes senti rather than asenti, senti, that's what accounts for the present participle form sat. So sat means that which is true. And there is also the Vedic mantra. Very simple. You can learn it right now. As simple as can be.
Are you writing on your pad, James?
Sorry. Thank you. Is Om Tat Sat. It doesn't come much simpler than that. So there's a bit of authentic Vedic for you. The Tat Sat, that, the truth, or that Om Tat, that this is what really is. That is the reality. That is what actually is the truth. Om Tat Sat.
Oh, James, I've just looked it up incidentally, and Tatvamasi is in the Chandogya.
The Chandogya Upanishad. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Chapter 6. And it's a fundamental teaching, as you quite rightly said, of non-duality, indicating the identity of the individual soul, the Atman, with the ultimate reality, Brahman.
Oh, phew, I got that right. Anyway, thanks very much, Chris. Excellent. So, Chandogya Upanishad. Incidentally, the same tat is in the phrase that I've just given you of tat tuam asi. It's the same as we used an identical word in English, except we've got an H in it in English. It's tat in Sanskrit and that in English. They're, in meaning and in etymology, the same word. So, that which is unreal, which does not exist, or very often in Vedic terms, that which exists only as a maya, something we fancy exists, but doesn't have its own real essential, back to essay again, same verb, that doesn't have its own real essential existence, though we may fancy to exist, like, the sense of one's own permanent self is actually asat. So that's the sat. And we just put the negating, sorry, pen's playing up again. We put the negating in front of it, asat. And it makes, as I was saying above, it makes its genitive form sataha, of the being, of that which is. So the genitive form, asatah, would mean of the unreal, of that which does not exist. So we see both forms here. We see without the negation, satah, of that which truly is, of that which is real, and the asatah, of that which is not real, but which we falsely imagine to exist. I can't remember whether with this group or with these people I've done this, the wonderful Hindu chant Asato Ma Sadgamaya. So it's the same. Sorry, my pen is playing.
Can we have the pad back, James, please?
Sorry, yeah. You haven't missed anything yet because I've. That's Asato Ma Sadgamaya. It's part of a very, very well-known chant. Does anyone know the name or where the chant comes from? It's Asato Ma Sadgamaya.
I should, James. I've forgotten. I'll
I
look
think
it up.
it's also from an Upanishad or something like that. I'll look it up right now.
Okay, right. Very good. So it's Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Note that in the consonantal declension, that's the declension where the stem ends in a consonant, the ablative is the same as the genitive. So asatah means of that which truly is. Also, it has the ablative from or away from. So asatoma sadgamaya. Gamaya is the causative form of the root gum. So gum, slightly irregular, the mud becomes a ch in the present tense. Gachati, he, she, it goes. But the causative is gamayati, to make to go, to cause to go, and therefore it's used in the sense of leading a person from one place to another place. So literally to make to go, but here would have the meaning of to lead. So Gamaya, lead. Ma, by the way, is an alternative form of mam, just means me. So Gamaya in an English would be Gamaya mam asato sat. So Gamaya mam, lead me, asato, from the unreal, from the false, sat, to that which is real, to the true. There's some sat here, which of course becomes by sandhi, the tat becomes a das. Let's say sat gamaya, but sad gamaya. It's the neuter, so you see, it's the neuter accusative, it's the accusative of motion. Lead me to something. And then it goes on, tamasuma, jyotirgamaya, lead me from the darkness to the light. And then mrityur mam mritangamaya, lead me from death to the immortal.
It says here that it's the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad.
Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paula. Oh, Paula, I think I put in an email that you may have seen my explanation of your question of how do you get to the form Bhagavad Gita. Did I put that in an email? I think I did, yes. It's a supplementary email. I'll deal with it because this is also in point. We've got the adjectives ending in vant and mant, or swem, vant and mant. And so we get the stem Bhagavant. Remember, Bhagavant does not exist as a freestanding word on its own. It exists as the abstract stem to which other things are added. So you get the masculine nominative singular Bhagavan. In modern India, in Hindi, they pronounce it Bhagwan. which is Blessed One. It's a respectful title for a teacher. And the accusative Bhagavantam and the instrumental Bhagavata, ablative, generative Bhagavata, and so on. Some of these forms are the same in Pali. Buddhang Bhagavantam Abhivademi, for example, in Pali. The neuter form, and this reflects the present participle, the neuter form is Bhagavat. Now, coming back to Paula's question, explaining the form Bhagavad Gita. You can either write as one word or write as two words or write it with a hyphen. That's just a question of your own preferred style using Roman script. Written in the Devanagari script, it would all be run together as one word anyway. So what we have here, how do you explain this D at the end of the Bhagavad Gita? So it is the stem Bhagavant, neuter form Bhagavat. Now, the neuter form is also used as the combining form in compounds. So we're now making a compound word. If you want to say the divine song, the blessed song, you could separate the noun from the adjective, and you could say Bhagavati Gita. Gita is a feminine noun, Bhagavati is the feminine form. Or you can make a compound, run them together into one. If you're making a compound, what's happened here? If you're making a compound, use the Vat form. So it would be the Bhagavat Gita. And by regular sandhi, the At followed by G becomes Ad-Gita, Bhagavad Gita. So that explains the form Bhagavad Gita.
But it can also be used for teacher, you said.
Bhagavan, it means having bhaga, which means a blessing, receiving and giving blessing. It's often translated among Buddhists as the blessed one. In the point I was making there, Paula, is that in modern India, so if you look back at for example, at the Buddhist texts, the phrase Bhagavantam is used only for the Buddha. But that's just a matter of Buddhist usage. Among the Hindus of modern India, certainly among the Hindi speakers, the rest I can't speak for, but among the Hindi-speaking Hindus of modern India, the same word, which in Hindi is pronounced Bhagwan, is used for a very revered teacher. It's almost, it almost shows a tendency to raise the teacher to a semi-divine status. So it doesn't actually mean teacher. It's just that word, the Blessed One, is used as a title of great respect for a much revered teacher.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I wasn't aware that they would use it for a teacher.
In modern India, yes. Not kind of ordinary teacher. I mean, you wouldn't call me Bhagwan. You've got to be one of these kind of revered gurus to be a Bhagwan. In fact, I'm just going to take you back to, we see it again and again, going to take you back to 2:11. Well, you find at the beginning of many verses, Shri, look, Bhagavan Uvacha. Here we are, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Let me separate these words out for you. There we are, it's the same Bhagavan, the Blessed One, meaning Krishna himself. So here it's applied to an actual divine being. And the Shri, I think you all know, because Shri means it's from a root meaning brilliance, brightness, and then by extension glory. It's the same Shri as in Sri Lanka, glorious Lanka. And yet again, what do they do in modern India? Shri becomes an ordinary title of respect of nothing more than Mr.
In Tibetan, it's Palden, of course.
Is Palden the Tibetan form of Shri?
Yeah.
Ah, right.
So Palden Nima, so Shri, whatever the word for sun is, Surya, is it?
Surya, yes. Ah, Palden Nima is Shri Surya, the glorious sun.
That's the one. That's me.
Oh, wonderful.
So I was quite happy to get that name.
You were jolly lucky indeed to get the name of the glorious sun, the Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun.
We have Shri Animala.
Indeed, Shri Animala. Yes. So Shri Animala from Sri Lanka. Wonderful. And so you get again. I'm not sure whether you do it in Sinhala. You can tell us Shri Animala, but certainly in modern Hindi and maybe the other languages of northern India as well. But Shri is just used nowadays as an ordinary polite term for Mr. And with its feminine form, Shrimati, which is just a regular Shriman. Shri is a noun. Shriman or Shrimat, possessed of glory, and Shrimati, feminine form, is therefore glorious, and therefore it's just used as Mrs. Do you use Shrimala? Do you use the forms Shri and Shrimati to use Mr. and Mrs. or as a title, a respectful title?
No, not in Sri Lanka. Not
okay. In fact,
that is in India. I have seen in Indian people they are written Srimat. Like
okay, well, so that does coincide with what I've seen. I think am I right? Do I remember correctly? You use a phrase like Mahataya, meaning sir, as a respectful title.
Yeah.
So Mahataya looks as if it's from Mahatman, and this is a kind of singular form of Mahatman, you of great soul, as in Mahatma Gandhi, of course. So here, the Shri, we have two forms here, the Shri Bhagavan, the glorious blessed one, meaning Krishna himself, Uvacha said. Okay, we'll come back to where we were, 17. Sorry, not the wrong one. Here we are. So here we see in this verse then, let's run through it quickly, the Sattah being the genitive form of that which is, and Asata, which is Asata, of that which is not, of the unreal, of that which does not truly exist. Stating whether something exists or not, you tend to use a word like bhava. So bhava from our regular bhu, meaning to be. So there is no being, there is no existence of the unreal / untrue / what does not exist. And here the same in reverse. Na abhava vidyate sata. There is no non-existence of that which truly is. The point that's being made here, I think, is talking about do we when the body dies, does the person die with it? And the point that Krishna is making is that it is the ultimate self, which is the same as us, which is truly real. Therefore, it is not conceivable that that could die with the death of the body. That's the point that's being made here. So Bhayorapi drishtontas tu anayos tattvadarshipi. Okay, I've broken it up here. Anta means, its basic meaning just means an end, as in the beginning and the end of something. And etymologically, it's the same word as our English word end. So anta and end are etymologically the same word. In this context, it's used to mean the end in the sense of the reality. How have I put it here? Okay, the end, and then usually in the end, yeah. Conclusion, the final seeing of the reality of the ultimate truth. So the end, meaning the ultimate reality of it in this sense. So the end, the reality ubhayo, of both. This is a genitive dual form, by the way. So ubhayo and anayo, genitive dual forms, mean of them both. Ubhayo, of both, anayo, of them, meaning of those two. And this form with a B in it has survived, in fact, with an inserted M. For example, in Latin, you get ambi, as in ambidextrous. You can use either hand equally, not just the right or the left hand. Ambivalent, meaning two things at the same time. And in Greek, you have in classical Greek, I can't remember in modern Greek, but amphi, meaning both. Amphivalo, to put both ways, so to doubt. I look to you for a correction if I'm wrong about any of this, Paula. But also amphibious. In modern English pronunciation, amphibious means having both lives. So it has a life in water and a life on land. So it can live in both amphi. In Greek, in English, did I get that right, Paula?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. That's a relief. Stuck my neck out of it there. In Greek, in the Germanic line, we retain the b sound, so the German beide and the English both as a survivor of that, of that ubhaya. And in fact, in modern Russian, oboy, ubhaya, modern Russian, oboy, meaning both. So, and of course, it's automatically declined in the dual number because the word both automatically implies the number two. It's an inclusive two, both one and the other. So the true reality, the anta, ubhayor, anayor, of both of them, drishtaha, seen, meaning has been seen. In this context, of course, means has been understood. Tattva darshibhi. So just the word tattva, got a pen problem again. We've just been looking at the word tat, meaning that. And you can make an abstract noun of it by adding toi, which you might translate as something like thatness. So thatness just means the true reality of something. So a tattvadarshi, anyway, tattvadarshi is a truth seer. So it's another word for the truth. So darshi from the root drish. So a darshan means one who sees. And this is the instrumental plural form of it. Let me give you this. So, for example, we've got our favorite example, a yogin, one who does yoga. In the instrumental plural, you add in for the consonantal stem, you add bi, which means so it just makes the instrumental plural form, which is reflected in Latin in forms like ibus and bus, rebus, sixtantibus, things being so. When this ending b is joined to the stem in, the n is lost. So by the yogis would not yogin be, but yogi be. From the root drish, you get one who sees is a darshan, an instrumental plural, darshibhi. So tattva darshibhi, by the reality seers, by those who see the tattva, the reality of things. And it's in the instrumental plural because of this past participial drishtaha, seen, I mean, has been seen. So the anta, the ultimate nature, the true reality of both of these things, that's being and non-being, drishtaha, has been seen, tattva darshibhi, by the truth seers, by the seers of things as they really are.
What about the two, James? What does that signify? It's in the next verse as well. Two.
How's Avinashi Tutra. Okay. It's a modal particle. Its predominant use is to make a kind of contrast between one thing, such and such a thing is true, but on the other hand, like on the other hand, or by contrast. That's the primary meaning of it. However, that is, I think it's right to say, how it was almost always used in Vedic. When it comes to classical Sanskrit, it does still occasionally retain that meaning, but it's often just put in, dare I say it, because the poet needs an extra syllable. So it can be put in without really altering the meaning. Just as in English, people will frequently insert words into their ordinary speech that don't add substantial meaning to the sentence, like really, see what I mean, sort of. These things get thrown into modern English speech. These are words that all have meanings. Really, you see, sort of. If you look back to the true core meaning of those expressions, they did all have a core meaning. And if Shakespeare, for example, or Milton had used those expressions, they would have their true original meaning. Whereas listen to ordinary discourse in modern English, and you'll hear those words being used just as kind of sentence fillers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
There's also the inclusion so often these days, it's a transatlantic thing of putting like at the end of every
oh,
sentence.
goodness me, yes. Yeah, again, I mean, I would love to have seen the faces of Shakespeare and Milton to hear that being done in modern English. You know what I mean, right?
Not accusing the poet of the Bhagavad Gita of putting in meaningless filler words, surely.
Goodness me. I could have
Isn't
created
that some kind of heresy, that, isn't it?
I could have created some very bad karma for myself. Sorry, Valmiki. We revere you as a true Bhagwan. So the Valmiki is one of the people who's a potential author for the Bhagavad Gita. No, does it? It could have the meaning of like for in the conjunctive for, meaning so there is no non-being for that which really is. Sorry, there is no being for that which truly is not. There is no non-existence for that which truly is. For the seers of truth. Yeah, you wouldn't really need to put it in English, but it's thrown in. Look, Valmiki, I didn't mean any disrespect. Honest gov. I think I'd better resort to the much safer way of saying it would be wonderful if he were here to explain to us precisely what he had in mind when he put in that tu. So no, it's not as bad as these insertions, particularly that barbarism that Chris has just mentioned, adding like. It's nothing near, and it's become accepted. Goodness me, I suddenly feel on shaky ground here, having kind of being seen to cast some aspersion. It's not intended as an aspersion. I lack sufficient knowledge. It's entirely through my own fault, which I confess, to be able to explain it more fully than I can.
Don't worry about it, James.
Oh well, no, you're very generous and kind.
Well, as a psychiatrist.
It's part of his fluid, beautiful use of Sanskrit that we find it. So shall we? An hour's nearly gone. So
can I ask a question, James?
Yes, of course, Paula, please.
So, I'm sure you've done this a million times, and I've probably been here for most of them. But
well, let's see.
The sort of simple explanation between "bu" as in to be and as also meaning to be. Is there sort of a semantic difference?
I'm glad you raised that one. Is there a semantic reason? There's a semantic difference.
Just an easy way to discern between them, kind of in terms of their meaning.
They very largely overlap in meaning. There's a large degree of overlap here. You will find that indeed in some languages, you find both forms treated as part of the same verb. Can anyone give me an example of a language where we have both of these roots treated as part of the same verb? Okay, English for a start. I'll explain why. Okay, so we've got the Sanskrit asti, as I was just saying, we've got the Latin.
Could you show us your pad, please?
Sorry. We've got the Latin. Sorry, Sanskrit asti, Latin est. Was in modern French pronounced e, and then Italian becomes e. Spanish es. German ist. And English is. So all of these forms are derived from that same root as, meaning to be. From the root bhu, bhavati, in English, we have be. The verb to be is from that same root bhu. And in the Slavonic languages, and in Russian, for example, to be is bit, the be root. And yet, so we have is and be, which we regard now as essentially part of the same verb. And it's the irregular verb to be. I am, you are, he, she, it is. Back more particularly to Paula's question. Incidentally, this be, it turns up in Greek is in classical Greek it would be pronounced pu, but in modern Greek phi. And that's how we say the physical. So it means that which really is, that which has being. So the bhava and physics, the bhu and classical Greek, pu, modern Greek phi root, they're all from that same root, that which has an existence, the physical. Although there is an overlap in meaning, you'll tend to find in Sanskrit, and the same applies in Pali, that the root as tends to mean more declaring that something exists. Whereas bhavati tends to be more of the equational, hey, A is so-and-so, so-and-so is my friend, mitram bhavati, not mitramasti, mitram bhavati. That distinction isn't absolute. There's just a tendency to differentiate the usage slightly. Though, at bottom they do have the same meaning. And as we see in English, they've essentially merged into one verb.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope that has explained it. So from this root bhu, we have, in fact, we have two verbal nouns, bhava and bhava. Both forms of the verbal noun exist. They both mean, sorry, I've accidentally miswritten the second one. So bhava and bhava. Essentially, they both mean being, as in the fact of being. There is a distinction between them. It's not hard and fast distinction, but it's a distinction that has just arisen in the use of the language. That bhava, with a short a, tends to veer more towards the. In fact, I've just been explaining the same point to my Pali class. So Anne, you were there, I think, when I was explaining this same point. That bhava tends to more to have to veer towards meaning of being, becoming. And bhavati is not just to become, as in the Pali phrase bhavatanha, which in Sanskrit would be bhavatrishna, meaning the thirst or the craving for being, for becoming, for something to be what is not. Bhava tends to have the meaning of a state of meaning. So the condition in which one is. So bhava, more dynamic, being, becoming. Bhava, more static, being the state in which one statically is. Though, as I say, this distinction isn't hard and fast. There's just this tendency for the differentiation to be made. So back to where we were.
May I ask a question, James?
Yes, please, of course, Marco.
I was wondering, we don't have two different verbs for existence in Italian, but the past tense is io fui, fu.
Ah.
And I was wondering if it may be connected with bu, like to bear in English is to ferro in Latin.
Of course, yes,
and,
yeah. Do you know, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Thank you, Marco. Yes, of course. Marco has, because we got in modern Italian, essere, to be, directly from the Latin esse, cognate with the root as, the Vedic root as. But the past tense, in Latin, fui, fuisti, fuit, and in modern Italian, fui, fosti, fu. Of course it is. Yes, it is from that alternative, from the other root, bu. Yeah, so there was me saying English does it. We have the two roots in what's regarded now as a single verb. Of course, Latin and Italian do the same, and Spanish as well. Ser, to be, and fui, fuiste, fue. Fui, fuisti, fuit, fui, fosti, fu. There we are. Yes, thank you for that, Marco.
Thank you.
Absolutely right. If you ever use the wrong verb or use one of those two verbs out of place, if ever you happened to be speaking or writing Pali and Sanskrit, if you got it out of place, it might sound a tiny bit odd and foreign, but you would be fully understood.
Well, there are versions of English in which people say, he be going or he be.
Oh, he be going, yes.
He be.
He be
very wise, he be.
Like the Devon farmer who was saying with admiration that his neighbour was an OBE in the Order of the British Empire. He said, he be OBE, he be.
Well, he be who I had in mind, really.
He be what?
He be who I had in mind, that farmer.
Okay. Apologies to the non-English among you. We're just going back into the lovely dialect of the southwest of Devon and Cornwall. So, were there any further queries? And we could have a recitation or two before we wind up. So, right, would you like to start, Madeleine?
Yes.
Please do.
Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drishtontastvanayo yostatva darshibhihi.
Okay, that was very good. This is a bit of a tongue twister here, too, with all the joining of the words. Ubhayo rapid drishton tastuanayos tatvadarshibhi. But you did very well. Srinimala, would you like to have a go? Should I show it to you in both?
Yeah. नासतो विद्यते भावो नाभवो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोष्णस्त्वन्यो सत्त्वदर्शिभिः.
Thank you. Just want to say, drishtontas twanayos.
Tvayon
Drishtontas twanayos.
yeah. Ubayorapi dristontas.
Okay, very good. That was a bit of a tongue twister, as we say. Right, thank you, Srinimala. Anne, you are next in my gallery.
Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Ubhayorapi drishton tastvam na yosh tatvadarshibhi.
You got all the sounds right, one by one. But I agree, it is very difficult to make that flow with all the sandhi. But thank you, Anne.
Yep.
So the glorious sun, may the glorious sun recite.
It's very much an aspiration, that name. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah. Upayorapi drishtuntas tvanayos tatva darshibihi.
Okay, right. There is Upayorapi drishtuntas tvanayos tatva darshibihi. Yeah, the pada break, as I'll just mark it here. That's the first pada and the second pada of that line. Sometimes the padas want to join themselves together, particularly where you get an explicit sandhi like this, where the antaha becomes antas before the following ta. And remember, I think you all know, when you get to the end of a line, you never make sandhi from the end of one line of poetry to the next. But although we divide the individual lines into padas, you do make the sandhi between the two padas, which is the phenomenon that we see in, for example, na sato vidyate bhavo. So it would be bhavaha, na bhavo. So here we do make the sandhi between the end of the first pada and the beginning of the second. We sometimes, with the voice, want to create a natural break between the first pada and the second one. And it's easy to do, for example, here, where you get the first pada ending in a vowel, and the second pada beginning in a consonant. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata. Okay, that's easy to do. It's much more difficult where you get the s and the visarga becoming a sabasandhi and joined to the first ta of the ensuing pada. I mean, for example, it would sound funny it sounds natural to say na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata. You know, these are two contrasting statements. It's natural to separate them slightly, but much more difficult to separate the ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanayos tatvadarshibhi. It just doesn't sound right. So where that happens, you just have to pronounce it all as, have to recite it all as one. Right, thank you. Chris, thank you, Paladin. We're round to you, Chris.
Okay. Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha. Ubayor api dristondas tavan twanayos tatwa darshibihi.
Okay, very good. just run all together. Just the ones that I've highlighted. Drishtontas twanayos.
Dristontas twanayos tatwa.
Drishtontastu. Just say drishtontastu.
Dristontastu.
Very good. Got it. Drishtontastu. Excellent. Okay, thank you, Chris. We're on to Barry.
Yeah. Nasato vidyate bhavo nabhavo vidyate sataha. Upayorapi drishtontas tvanayos tatva darshibi.
Very good. You ran that smoothly along as one, going with cautious slowness, but nevertheless without any breaks. Very good indeed. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Marco, we are round to you.
Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataham. Upayorapi drishtoantastu vanayostatva darshibihi.
Right, thank you. The one very interesting phenomenon I noticed as you were chanting that, Marco, that you pronounce the tu there almost as if it were a vowel. So originally it was a vowel, is tu anaios, becomes then by Santi tuanaios. But with the way you were chanting it, you gave it a full, like a full short vowel pronunciation. Which is very interesting. I mean, I do bow to your great expertise in chanting. It was interesting that you did it in that way. Can you just do this second line again, Marco, for us?
Ubayor api drishtoantastu anayostatva darshibihi.
No, do you notice he said like a tu anaios.
It's hard to get it to scan without either breaking before the t or after the t, isn't it? It's just you either have to sort of pause at the tas or pause after the twa.
Sometimes they chanted Ubayo apidrishta antaha tu anayo tatva darshibihi.
Oh, so who chants it like that, Marco?
There are many examples people from India chanting
well, okay,
ignoring the at the end of the epada.
That's interesting, because so maybe I have to row back on my statement that you always do have the sandhi between first pada and second pada. But Marco, in the first line, for example, you have the first pada ending in bhavaha, which becomes bhavona by regular sandhi. The people who chant in the way you've just been telling about, would they make the sandhi there? Would they say nasata vidyate bhavaha?
Less frequently. It seems they don't like the ending in s at the end of the first part of the second line.
Are they okay? And one can kind of see why. Because Sanskrit doesn't want a word to end in an S unless it's got a t directly following. But if it does have a t directly following, you feel you want to join them together as one word. Quite apart from the fact that tu is an enclitic anyway. It's always joined onto the previous word. So yeah, that's a very, very interesting point you've raised there, Marco, and when I can't see why. Okay then, so just gone 3, and I have to be off for my next meeting. And thank you very much for joining me. And see you in a week's time.
2 weeks.
Thank
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Thank you.
Sorry, silly me, silly me.
Thank you,
Thank you.
James.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you all.
James.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
all.
much.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.